everyone. This is Stephen Balch, your instructor for Principles of Marketing at Ozarka College. Today what I'm going to do is give you a little bit of feedback on the chapters 10 through 12 activities that I finished grading during spring break. And then I'm going to remind you about the semester project one more time. And then I'm also going to tell you what we've got coming up due for chapters 13 and 14 later this week. So first thing is, I would like to say that I hope everybody had a great spring break. And hopefully you're kind of re-energized and ready to get back and continue with the class this semester. We've just got a few weeks left, so the best thing we can do here is just keep pushing through and do good work these last few weeks, and we'll be done here before you know it. All right. So I did finish, like I said, I did finish grading the chapters 10 through 12 activities during spring break. Most of you did well on that, those activities. And like I always tell you, I really appreciate those of you that are putting the time and effort in to this class. I really appreciate that, so keep up the good work on that. Now, let's go to the activities page very quickly here, and I need to remind you about the semester project, which is due 3 weeks from today. So it's due Tuesday, April 22nd. So we've got exactly 3 weeks to finish that up and get that submitted. If you, as you're working on finishing up the semester project, if you have any questions or need some help, just let me know, and I'll be glad to help you. Also, what I'm going to do is give everyone a chance, if you want to do this. You don't have to do this, but if you want me to look over your finished semester project before you submit it for a grade, if you want to email it to me through course mail, just make sure that you submit it at least a week before the due date so that I have time to look over it and give you feedback on it before it has to be submitted for a grade. Like I said, I don't mind at all looking over it for you and at least giving you some basic pointers on, anything that I see, that's just an obvious thing that you need to modify on your project. I don't mind at all looking over it for you like that. But like I said, you'll need to get it to me at least a week before the due date. And hopefully at this point, since we're so close to the due date for that semester project, you really should be just about done with it. You should just be putting the finishing touches on it at this point. If you're still not at that point, if you still got a lot of work to do on it, then I would highly recommend working quite a bit, as much as you can this week on it, so that you're not trying to do it right at the last minute, because when you try to do stuff at the last minute, you're probably not going to do very well on the project, because you're probably going to miss things that you needed. You're going to omit some things and so forth. And so it's always a good idea to have that project completed well enough in advance so that you give yourself enough time and you're not trying to speed through it. Okay? And so just continue working on that. Like I said, let me know if you have questions. All right. The other thing I need to remind you of today is under week 11 on the activities page, which is the week that we're on right now. We're on the beginning portions of that week. We've got, later this week, we've got chapters 13 and 14 due. So you've got the assignment, test, and discussion all due by Friday, April 4th, which is Friday of this week. So you've got a few days to finish that up. Hopefully you've already gotten started on it. If you haven't, I would definitely get started on it today. All right. And very quickly here, I'm going to tell you what we're going to be looking at, some of the topics that we're going to be covering in chapters 13 and 14. First, with chapter 13, we're going to be looking at supply chain management and marketing channels. So We're going to be more specifically looking at the benefits of an effective supply chain and the key processes of supply chain management. Also, sustainable supply chain management, the technological advances which affect supply chains, and the marketing channel structures. There are various channel structures that can be used to get the product from the point where it's produced to the point where it's consumed. And there are actually market structures that are created for consumer products, and then there are also separate marketing structures for business products. And in the last set of chapters, we learned about the difference between consumer products and business products. If you remember, the main difference, the thing that really distinguishes the two, is the purpose of why it's being purchased, what it's going to be used for. If it's going to be used in the operation of a business, it's a business product. If it's going to be used for, household use, then it's a consumer product. And the same product can actually be categorized both ways, depending on who's going to be buying it and what it's going to be used for. For example, a computer that is used for household use, and bought by a consumer, that would be a consumer product. But that same computer, if it's bought by a business to operate that business, then that is a business product. Okay? And the channel structures that you use, again, for consumer products versus business products, there are some differences there. So you're going to be learning about some of those differences in Chapter 13. Also, at the end of Chapter 13, you're going to also learn about the channel intermediaries and the functions that those intermediaries perform. For example, there are the most common intermediaries between production and consumption are wholesalers and retailers and so forth. There's some other ones, but those are the two most common ones. And that brings us to Chapter 14, where we're going to be looking at one of the most common channel intermediaries, which is the retailer. So Chapter 14 is going to cover retailing. So in Chapter 14, we're going to learn about the different types of retailers. For example, there are specialty retailers, there are discount retailers, and so forth. And so you're going to learn about those various types of retailers. Also, we'll also look at the factors which determine how retailers are classified. There are different things that we look at to classify a particular retail operation as for example, a discount store or a specialty store. Okay, so you're going to learn about that, and then also, in addition to the normal brick and mortar retailers, there are also non-store retailers. Obviously, there are online retailers, and so we're going to learn about also the growth of non-store retailing. And then also in Chapter 14, we're going to learn about the steps that are involved in executing a retail marketing strategy. And then finally, at the end of Chapter 14, you're going to learn about retailing decisions for services. A lot of the businesses, especially small businesses today, offer services rather than goods. And so we're going to learn about how retailing is different for service businesses versus goods businesses. All right. So that's chapters 13 and 14. So be working on those. Be finishing up your semester project. And that's all I have for you for today. So enjoy the rest of your week and your weekend. And I will talk to you again sometime, probably early next week. Thank you.